AEW Dynamite dominates the ratings this week against NXT, and we talk about that and review the shows next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. For news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. So our first week in a while where we're comparing the ratings again and really reigniting the Wednesday Night War. And this one looks like we're back to square one.
At least for NXT.
Yeah, AEW really had a good week here. 0.36, they kept their same rating from last week. They had 947,000 viewers, which was actually a 20,000 viewer drop, but still keeping pretty much the same fan base as last week. NXT, for the second week in a row, have dropped below the top 50 cable shows of the day. They did get a 0.19. They did get 721,000 viewers, which were both increases from the week before.
Right.
But the week before was a year in review show. So I have to ask the question, did NXT stop their momentum with this last week?
Yeah, I definitely think they did. I think they were on to something really good where, they had built a lot of intrigue. We know that a lot of the NXT roster was booked really strong going into and out of Survivor Series. There was a lot of good storyline development following that. We had Rhea Ripley become the women's champion. Keith Lee was getting pushed. You had guys like Finn Balor, which were integral parts to main storylines. All of that was really going for them. And I feel like once Rhea Ripley achieved what she was trying to achieve, got the women's NXT championship, it almost felt like that was their season finale.
Right.
And it was like, I think they really made a massive blunder here with their whole year-end episode, the awards. It was almost like, we're going to take the week off. Now, I understand why they did it, but at the same time, I think it was a little bit of a blunder on their part, because now you also have to understand, we know a lot of people going back and forth between both shows.
Right.
Now you're inviting the individuals who normally would watch NXT to now tune into AEW. Now,
and they did.
Of course they did. I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, last week they had like what, 900,000, over 900,000 viewers. That was the first time they've done it since their debut, I think.
No. It's been almost since October that they've hit close to 1 million. But like I said, they had a 0.36 last week, 967,000 for AEW Dynamite, which was a homecoming show. They built that show as a big thing.
Yep.
Whether or not they were knowing that NXT was going to have a year in review and take that week off, I don't know. But obviously, AEW needed to hit a home run last week with that episode to maintain the viewership, and they did.
Yeah, they delivered in a big way last week.
Right. And this week, this was the first week where I think since October, you can't say, oh, well, there's a World Series game. There was a college football game. There was something big with politics going on. This was the first week that was like, okay, we're going to see whose ratings are better, because there's really no outside involvement on what could be on TV that could affect their ratings. Mm-hmm. And I think the momentum that NXT had was halted from that year-end review, and it shows in the ratings.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Christmas episode of NXT, which was all pre-taped matches from Brooklyn and Full Sail, had 831,000 viewers and got a 0.22 rating. So they're like, well, AEW didn't have an episode. How come this didn't happen to them? Because AEW booked basically a pay-per-view on that New Year's Day episode against a year in review show.
Yep.
So, and they delivered on it. So it's like, okay, this was good. I can't wait for next week. And people watched that. They didn't watch NXT because it was out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
Now this week, did the ratings really show that Dynamite was a better show than NXT? I think both shows this week were good, but there's definitely some things that could have been worked on and might have not been great. And we're going to talk about that now. So we'll start with AEW Dynamite. First and foremost, let's talk about the good of the show. I thought, for the most part, the matches all delivered and were very solid matches. I thought the opening match with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page was a good match. I do like this dynamic and the storytelling between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, and really the demise of Hangman Page, where yes, he's winning, but still something's not quite right with him.
Mhm.
So he's, going to alcohol and not necessarily becoming an alcoholic like some people are saying he is, but he's using alcohol to relieve his, I guess, depression, really.
That, or it could also be that he's trying to actually play up the whole cowboy gimmick, which is something I wanted to actually see from him.
Yep.
But no, I definitely, it was a good match. It did what it was supposed to do. It helped progress the storyline a little bit, helped build the tension between or amongst the elite. Obviously, the thing that most people assume is going to happen is Hangman Page will eventually turn on the
Right.
group. He's certainly been trying to distance himself from the group. So this kind of, it was a good match. It helped progress that storyline.
Right. And I think the other thing, too, is to finish out this match, you had the combination of the buckshot lariat with the V-trigger sandwich into, was it Mark Quinn? And he sold it perfectly.
So.
He just basically flopped to the ground. Yeah. And eventually the one-winged angel to get the pin for Kenny and Hangman Page. I thought this was a solid match. And Private Party looked pretty good, too, here. They didn't look out of control, fast-paced. What do we do next if we don't have the spot ready? They slowed down a little bit and it showed, and it actually worked for them. So I thought this was very good for Dynamite. The other good thing was the other tag team match, Cody Rhodes and Dustin against the Lucha Brothers. I thought was a very good show, a very good match. I do like how they were working Dustin's knee. I do like that. Again, this was also another somewhat slowed down version of the Lucha Brothers, and the fact that they were able to slow down and still have the match deliver just shows you don't need to have everything go from 0 to 60 as soon as the bell rings.
Yeah.
And of course, the other awesome thing of the night was the DDP MJF segment.
Yeah.
I really liked this segment.
Well, I liked certainly liked MJF. I like the use of DDP, especially because the one thing that I was kind of a little bothered by, and I know they even talked about this, they made an excuse for Cody being out of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to also kind of think that at some point, realistically, they had to have crossed paths.
Right.
So
especially when this was immediately following Cody's match.
Exactly. So it's like, if Cody really wants to get his hands on MJF that bad, I'm sure he could have found a way to do so.
Right. And Dustin came out for the save, so why couldn't Cody?
Right. And I think they even mentioned that he was not in the building or whatever the case may be. But if he wants to get his hands on MJF that badly, I'm sure he could have made himself present.
Yeah.
But it was a good segment. I thought MJF is probably one of the best heels. Well, he's definitely one of the best heels. He might be the best heel, at least on the mic.
Yeah.
I got to say, I think Wardlow is very uncomfortable in his position. He doesn't really necessarily portray himself as a dominant force. He's done nothing to establish that he's actually like a dominant force.
Right.
He kind of just stood by as DDP went after all those guys and then went after MJF and just stood there.
Right.
Even when he pushed DDP down, it was kind of like a half-assed little shove. It was, I don't know. It seems to me like he's really uncomfortable, really green in his position right now.
True. I mean, maybe that's just with inexperience, because I don't think he has much experience heading into AEW. I know he did a little stuff with the independent circuit, but there's not much of a track record on him. So that could be just lack of experience and trying to feel his character. Like, it's not exactly like Diesel, who had quite a few years on his belt and actually did stuff in WCW before coming to WWE as Diesel and Shawn Michaels' bodyguard. But
he lacks. I think he lacks the confidence and ability to show his charisma, if he has any. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Diesel and Sid, even when they were the bodyguards for Shawn Michaels, even if you weren't fans of them, they were interesting characters and charismatic.
Right. And I liked about the segment, though, DDP and MJF were just both really, really good on the mic. They both had very good lines. DDP calling MJF, was it Motor Mouth, Jack Off Friedman? And the whole thing at the end with MJF saying he's going to take one of his daughters and Rioter, and just like you're saying, bang. It was just awesome between those two.
He's a true heel. He knows how to get under the skin of the fans, which is like kind of like a lost art right now in
it
professional
is.
wrestling.
It really is. And Did you notice he was on his phone when DDP was talking?
Yeah.
He was tweeting.
I figured he was.
He was actually tweeting, and the tweet was, "Is this old fart ever going to shut up?" Yeah, so I thought that was good. I know a lot of people are talking about the segment that closed the show. What'd you think of Moxley and Jericho?
I to be quite honest, I thought it was good. I don't have any issue with it. I just feel like it was really predictable. I really never felt like Moxley would ever join the Inner Circle. It just didn't fit his character. He's kind of like a loner almost.
I tell you what, though, he sold it pretty well when he announced that he was going to join and having the shirt under his jacket, and they're all celebrating. I actually was fooled. I'm like, wow, they're actually going to go with this and make it. You know how Daniel Bryan joined the Wyatt family for a while. Vince Austin did the suit and tie for a little bit as Vince McMahon's buddy there. You know, run with it for a couple weeks, and then he turns on him. But then I realized there's still like 5 or 6 minutes left on this show. So they really had to like pace out the celebration. And because of that, the longer it went, I'm like, okay, when's it coming? When's it coming?
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. I feel like it's almost like a played out storyline in professional wrestling. Like we've seen it so many times. The things you just mentioned. I think we even saw it with Triple H and Shawn Michaels back in the day, recreating DX, and then Triple H pedigreeing Shawn Michaels or Shawn Michaels, whichever happened. But you know, it wasn't bad. Everyone did their part.
Yeah,
it just I didn't actually believe he would actually become a member of the Inner Circle.
Yeah, and I do like how he did run off with the keys. I want to see where that part goes. Do they keep the car in the storyline at some point? I know it's actually Shahid Khan's actual car, so you know they're probably not going to put cement in it or blow it up like Austin, but do they incorporate it in storyline where he's joyriding on the car and Jericho's trying to get it back? You know,
could be.
You know, it's a $750,000 car. So I think there was some bad to this show, and the bad, I think everyone can universally agree, this Nightmare Collective thing is god awful. Everything about it is just bad.
Yeah.
To me, I was really excited for Riho versus Chris Statlander, and was immediately turned off because of Brandy Rhodes on commentary. I was totally tuned out because she goes, "Why am I here? This match is not going to be good." Like literally said that.
Yeah. She literally buried the talent right on live TV. So.
Right. Now I understand you're a character, you're being a heel, you're supposed to say things, but you basically are saying don't watch. Flip the channel, go watch NXT because their women's division's better. It's basically what you just said. You can't be doing that, especially when you are the chief branding officer. That does not come off good.
Yeah, no, I don't think many people are interested in the Nightmare Collective. I didn't like it last night. I haven't really liked it in weeks previously. I've given it a chance. You know, and for what we saw of Statlander and Riho, I thought the match could have been and was good and had its spots, but unfortunately there was just too much outside interference.
Right.
So
unneeded outside interference. Like what I would have done. Right. If I was booking this, what I would have done was just have Riho and Statlander have their match. Statlander wins, and then the Nightmare Collective come out and attack Statlander because you know that's where they're going. You know Britt Baker and Riho are having their storyline. So that storyline doesn't necessarily need the title, but I guess they think it is because now they're having this Seth Brock dynamic where Riho's only there part-time, Britt's there all the time.
Yep.
So I really hope this isn't setting up for Britt Baker as the AEW Women's Champion, though.
Well, I think they're going to turn her heel fairly soon. Whether that means
I think she already is. I think they kind of already done that.
Yeah, and you know, it's also going to be interesting to see how the fans treat Riho because from what she tweeted out, she's going back to Japan.
I think that's just this weekend. That's just this weekend. Someone actually tweeted us explaining that she's in Stardom for this coming weekend, and that's it. So she could be flying back and be on next week's Dynamite, which she's not scheduled for. She doesn't have a match yet. and it's Bash at the Beach. So if she's not there on the 15th, she won't be there the following week because they'll be on the cruise.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that's going to be 2 more weeks she's not on top of the 5 weeks she wasn't on before. This doesn't look good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a few things that I just, obviously the Nightmare Collective, I wasn't too high on that. I think that right now AEW has a lot of factions. I think that, you know, that it certainly convolutes a lot of the storylines, especially when you have them getting involved in matches. And you know, that's one of the things that people are always so frustrated about WWE is the fact that you wouldn't get a clean finish.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know last night, you know, the involvement was obviously to progress storylines, but at the same time, 3 of the factions, out of the 3 factions, I should say, only one of them to me is really a good established faction that people are interested in.
Yeah.
That being the Inner Circle.
Although the Dark Order did get some heat finally this week.
They did.
And I did like after the Christopher Daniels Sammy Guevara match where Dark Order comes out and tries to recruit Daniels. Where were all the creepers that were there, you know, 3 weeks ago? I mean, I guess they did that to make the Bucks and SCU get an upper hand, which is fine. So, you know, now the Dark Order have a storyline. They're dealing with SCU. They're dealing with the Young Bucks. Eventually, there's gonna be some kind of match between those 3 tag teams, which is fine. And now, Evil Uno, to me, is actually a pretty good talker.
He's not bad, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the masks or the way they were portrayed before the vignettes and the videos, and if it has to do with the fact that and we talked about this, the creepers act like putties with their mannerisms.
Yep.
They come across as goofy and carny. Like, it's almost like I can't take them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Their masks, like, they don't come across as like something you'd be scared of or something that should intimidate you. It's like a shark tooth. Like,
it's not a creepy cult, but like Rita and the Putties, basically. What you're saying.
Like, it's almost like it has a childish feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Grayson, I don't know how he is on the mic, but he seems to be the one that would probably be better to be the voice and the face of the faction.
I
Because
disagree.
he has a look to him that's almost intimidating.
He does, but I think his silence helps that. I think Evil Uno is better as the mouthpiece and Grayson is better as the silent muscle.
Yeah.
And that works for them. I think this whole thing with last week with that video package and the Exalted one, which if you have joined the Dark Order online, you got the full conversation, and now people are speculating who is the Exalted one, and a lot of people are saying, because he says wonderful, that it's Matt Hardy. Now, Matt Hardy's contract is rumored to be done on March 1st, so his Revolution won't happen. Do they have someone else in the works? Is there going to be another surprise debut that falls flat because of this? Like, that's the thing. Keep this Exalted one kind of quiet, but still play it up.
Yeah.
So that when it debuts, it actually has significance. Because a lot of these debuts have kind of fallen flat.
Well, that also has to do with the fact that these guys, most of the people that they're debuting on TV in front of live crowds where people don't know who they are. They're not well known. They're big on the independent. Like last night with the Nightmare Collective, the guy Luther.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. Like, you shouldn't have to do your homework to understand what's going on with storyline.
Exactly.
And I'm sure a majority of the fan base had no clue who the hell that was.
I mean, if I was watching, a couple podcasts and stuff on YouTube beforehand, and even like the top well-known YouTube channels were like, we have no clue who this guy is. And apparently he's been around for a long time and he's good friends with Chris Jericho. But it's like, you can't be having these silent who debuts. Like, I mean,
no reaction.
There was no reaction to it. And the Memphis crowd was hot at times. It was quiet at times. But this one here felt significantly flat.
Well, there was a time or a point in the show where people were really hot during a match, and that was obviously for
Marco Stunt.
Well,
he's a hometown hero. So that was part of the reason. I think we disagree on this. first and foremost, I'm not a fan of Marco's stunt, but I thought he was actually used pretty well in this match.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Okay. I thought he was used pretty well. He had some surprise reversals. He got, a couple quick, fast ones in the match, but then Trent would throw him down and out-muscle him. There was one part where he did put a Canadian Destroyer on Trent, and I was like, yeah, that I can't explain that one. But other than that, I thought him and Orange Cassidy both, it was like I wanted to hate this match, but I couldn't. Yeah. I was having fun with this match.
Here, let me read my notes from what I have from last night. So I said, Orange Cassidy is very over. Trent Beretta looked competitive against the 140 guy after looking good last week against Jon Moxley. Yucky T has a dad bod and needs to find a gym ASAP. But anyway, let me elaborate on this whole Marco stunt thing. So I'm not going to go in on him and really kind of ridicule him because obviously we talked about this going months back. I'm not a fan of Marco stunt. I think that it does more harm for the individuals in the matches to have him in there, despite whatever capabilities he has, just because of the lack of size. It's just not believable. Now, I think that they're doing a disservice to the wrestlers in the ring when he's there and the way they're utilizing him. What I mean by that is this. I think the match started off with Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy actually tagged in Marco Stunt, which to me just kind of defies basic logic. So,
well, first off, he was trying to tag in Luchasaurus, but Marco was like, no, tag me in, and then tagged him in.
Exactly. But okay, you have a guy like Trent Beretta or whoever it is. If you're in a legitimate fight, and I know people are going to be like, it's not real, it's scripted, whatever. Okay, that's fine. You could say what you want. It's supposed to be a simulated fight.
Right.
If you're in a street fight, you're not going to be up against three guys, take the smallest one and say, you know what, go in there and fight them. You're going to take your biggest, baddest guy and you're going to say, let's go do this thing, right? Now, if he's the small guy, if he's the guy that's probably supposed to get sympathy from the crowd for the spots where theoretically he's getting thrown around and bullied and all of that, you probably want to keep him out of the ring as long as possible. So Jungle Boy tagging him in is also almost like confirming, like, yeah, he's meant to be competitive against these guys. It's like if you have the option of tagging in Luchasaurus, who is the biggest guy out of all of them and trained and all of that stuff, logistically, you should be tagging him in and protecting the small guy.
Right.
So there's that whole aspect of it.
Here's the counteract to that. Out of the 6 guys in the ring, who are the 2 most over with the crowd?
Orange Cassidy and Marco Stunt.
No. Luchasaurus. Okay. So one of the big parts of a good tag team match is the hot tag.
Yep.
Okay. Why tag in Luchasaurus early and not have that hot tag with the most over guy on the team?
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I also think there's ways to keep Jungle Boy in the match and have them beat down on him.
So then why have Marco in the match to begin with if he's not going to be in the ring at all?
I don't think he should be in the ring.
I know that, but he is. So you got to use him. You can't just have him. It can't just be a 3-on-2 handicap match with a guy as a placeholder. He's there. So you got to use him. Show some athleticism, show some quickness. It's basically the same thing that we're getting with Riho. It's the exact same thing.
Not to this. Well, I don't think it's the exact same.
It is. It is the same because Riho has beaten Nyla Rose twice.
And again, but we've talked about that too.
It's the same concept.
But with Riho, we've talked about that too. And I feel like, going back to all this, I think Nyla Rose should have been booked better than she's been booked.
Agree.
But I do take issue with the fact that last week Trent Beretta was in a match against Jon Moxley.
Right.
Looked really good, looked really competitive. And now he's taking a Canadian Destroyer from a guy that weighs 140 pounds.
And I just said that was probably the one thing I wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have had Marco Stunt do a Canadian Destroyer on him.
I personally don't think he should look competitive against anybody that is a legitimate professional wrestler. In my opinion.
That's fine.
And I know people don't share that opinion and people are like, oh, well, he's living out his dream. Look, that's fine. We've talked about this. I can't go throw on football pads and say I'm going to go play in the NFL. It's just, there's levels to certain things. You had Chris Jericho and Moxley go over to Japan and wrestle in Wrestle Kingdom against some of the very best in the world. And now they're working in a company where you've got this guy who's 140 pounds performing Canadian Destroyers against the guy who just won the Intercontinental Championship over there in Japan.
United States Championship.
Whatever the hell it is.
But still,
we could agree to disagree on this.
Yes, I know. I mean, I didn't think it was as bad as it's been. It was, Marco's stunt, I thought they used the right way. He got thrown around a little bit. And even Orange Cassidy, like, there's another guy that a lot of people have polarizing comments about, and we've talked about that at nauseum. I thought he was great in this match too. The standoff between him and Luchasaurus, the devastating kicks, his whatever attempt at a 450 splash where he just fell asleep on who was it? Was it Jungle Boy that he did that on?
I think
so. And then he pinned him, and then Marco Stunt did the stomp on him to break up the pin. That was good stuff.
Were you more excited to actually see this match, or are you more excited to hear Jim Cornette's reaction at some point this week?
I don't know. Because like I said, it's like I wanted to hate this match, but I just couldn't.
I didn't hate the match. I mean, accept it for what it is. I know people like that stuff. I don't personally have to like it.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
I understand. It's for that fan base.
Right. It's comedy wrestling. It's light entertainment, wishful, you're going to the kids, reach out for your dreams.
Silly and fun.
It is. It's silly and fun. These are the two, like, you got the best friends that they're like the New Day in WWE, where they can have serious matches, but they're also a comedy team. So
you got the legitimate one, the dad bod and the turd.
I guess, if that's what you want to say. After all that, what would you say about the overall show? Would you say this was a good show? Great show, okay show.
I thought it was okay. I think there was some good. I thought there was some bad. I don't think it was really meant to be anything special, though. I think it was just, it did what it was supposed to do. It progressed some storylines, which is always a good thing. It's not like they were leading into a major pay-per-view or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was what it was. It was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was. Out of our scale, where Elite, Dynamite, okay, and Undesirable, I thought it was at the low Dynamite level. Like, it was definitely not what we saw last week, but I thought it was entertaining enough where it kept me interested in the whole 2 hours. There was the turnoff of the women's match. But other than that, I thought every other segment was solid and watchable and entertaining, and I am intrigued to see what happens next week. I can't say the same for NXT. I thought NXT was kind of passable this week. But unfortunately we'll see how the ratings go next week, because I think the ratings for this week are a reflection of last week. And last week we had a very good AEW show against a year in review show, and it showed in this week's episode or this week's ratings. So we'll see how the ratings go for next week. Can AEW hold their viewership that they've had and their ratings, and NXT, can they get back into the race?
I think that AEW actually benefited a lot from Moxley and Jericho wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom, because there was a lot of buzz surrounding
and
Chris
mentioning
Jericho's
it
comments.
on this episode.
They did. So there was a lot of buzz surrounding that. So I think they definitely got the rub. I think that NXT will come back strong next week with a lot of their top guys being there: Balor, Ciampa, Gargano. We didn't even really get that follow-up from that whole thing where Gargano came back.
Well, there was a segment. There was a segment, but I mean, there's a challenge for NXT TakeOver, but it wasn't accepted. It wasn't official. There wasn't a match made. There was the Dusty Rhodes match or Dusty Road Classic matches were decent, but again, NXT bookended their show where it started off with something good and ended with something good, and there was kind of a lot of fluff in the middle. Good stuff, but not exactly stuff that's like, you got to watch this.
Yep.
So let us know what you guys think of AEW Dynamite in the comments below. Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, SCPV Podcast. And for news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti. Thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psycho Babble.